Hey, what's up everybody? It's Ian with Head Motor Company. Today we're going to be talking about the Royal Enfield Interceptor 650. For those of you that don't know, Royal Enfield is one of the oldest motorcycle companies in the world, starting back in 1901 alongside Indian Motorcycle. Don't get the two confused. Royal Enfield is made over in India, so technically yes, it is an Indian motorcycle, but not the same Indian motorcycle that we see here in the US. Royal Enfield is really popular over in Europe and is slowly making its way over here into the US and becoming more and more popular with an ever-growing dealer network. The point of this video is to talk about this bike though, and not give you the full history on Royal Enfield, so let's just dive right into it and talk about the Interceptor 650. This bike is powered by an air-cooled, oil-cooled 648cc English parallel twin. It features 18-inch wire wheels, front and rear, and ABS as standard equipment across the entire Interceptor lineup. To avoid the information saturation, I won't talk specs anymore, and I'll dive right into more about who this bike is for. This bike is really made for anyone of any riding level, experience, or age group. No matter how old or how young you are, you can find something to enjoy about this bike. And this rings especially true for those of us who don't need any fancy gadgets or rider technologies while on their motorcycle. As you can see here by the dash, it's relatively simple. Compared to other models in this segment, this one is really made to be an affordable, neo-retro styled bike. It's manageable, spunky, customizable, and uniquely vintage with heritage styling. The simplistic design creates an uninterrupted and engaging riding experience. And with modern technologies like ABS and fuel injection, it can enhance your riding experience and add to your confidence while you're out on two wheels. But what if you're a newbie, or a novice, an above average rider, or an absolute expert on two wheels? Well, the good news about this bike is that you can enjoy it no matter what level you are. If you're a newbie, you can count on linear power delivery, comfortable ergonomics, and minimal rider distractions. Although this isn't Royal Enfield's flagship starter bike, you definitely could start out on one of these, and with enough practice, eventually grow into it. In the intermediate or novice rider level, you can really hone your riding capabilities on this bike and take longer rides than you really expected to. This is the bike that's geared for the intermediate novice category. If you're an above average rider, you can still find something to enjoy in this bike. You'll be able to explore the full potential of this motor while still staying within your comfort zone. If you're already a pretty experienced rider, I wouldn't recommend this as your first bike. I would recommend this more as a secondary bike to an already existing fleet of motorcycles that you have in your garage. If you're an expert rider, you will absolutely be able to push this bike to its limit. But the dangerous part is that you might push it beyond its limit. Your riding skill level may very well outpace what this bike is meant to be doing. Don't get me wrong, you can enjoy it for all it has to offer, but don't ask too much out of it. With such a budget-friendly price, you have to consider that a lot of the components like brakes, suspension, and tires are also going to be budget-friendly as well. For you novice riders and beginner riders, how much power is too much power? I can certainly tell you that question will not be answered with this bike. The Interceptor is by no means a slouch, but it's also not designed for speed and power, so it's not going to be the most powerful motorcycle you can get your hands on. Bearing that in mind, this motorcycle weighs 470 pounds and produces 47 horsepower. But how can we compare that? We can compare it to a Toyota Supra from 2020. The Toyota Supra made a claim 335 horsepower. It also weighed in at 3,397 pounds, meaning that the Toyota Supra had 10.14 pounds for every horsepower it was putting out, which is only 0.14 more than the Royal Enfield Interceptor 650. I think what this bike wants to be is something that you can take out and really enjoy leisurely. Even though it's not necessarily the fastest, there's still something to be admired about it. And maybe you're asking yourself, should I buy this motorcycle? Well, I've got a few criteria to help you make that decision. Consider the class of rider that you are, and then think if this motorcycle makes sense for your skill set. If you enjoy neo-retro styling that is inspired from the classic heritage and vintage motorcycles of the 60s, 70s, and the 80s, then this bike can definitely appeal to you. And with the growing aftermarket support for this, you can really show your creativeness off and customize it to be exactly what you want it to be. You should also buy this bike if you like the idea of a simplistic mechanical motorcycle with limited technology interfaces. It's just less to maintain and take care of and less things to go wrong. And quite possibly the biggest influencer for most motorcycle purchases is the price point. There aren't many other bikes out there providing the value that Royal Enfield is providing. And one of the biggest benefits to owning a Royal Enfield motorcycle and buying it brand new are the member benefits. For zero out-of-pocket costs at the time of signing, you get access to tow service, flat tire change service, emergency gas delivery, battery jump service, and key lockout service for 3 years. Now, I've sold a couple of these bikes, but I've never actually gotten out to ride one, so that's what we're gonna do right now. So, genuine thoughts, impressions, and first-time review on it. First impressions is that it does turn in a little slow, but it's not terrible. I believe I mentioned linear power delivery, and that is something that this definitely has. I can feel it through each gear. It's super predictable, super tame, and very forgiving. Let's drop a couple gears. Go through this little twisty section here. Engine braking feels good. Miles an hour. I'm right at 4,500 RPM. This motor doesn't feel like it's struggling at all, and if I twist the throttle, I've even got a little bit more room to play with. So definitely not upset with that performance out of the motor at all. I've only been on the bike for about 10 minutes of a ride here, but I will say the seat is incredibly comfy. I think I could ride on this bike without worrying about how my buttocks feel for over an hour at least before I even thought about it. Man, but out here back roading in 6th gear, this thing is comfortable and cool as a cat. I think in an urban area as well, this bike would shine. Just going from stoplight to stoplight, the city streets, it would really highlight the environment that this bike would thrive in. And even country roads like this, I think it does exceptionally well so far. Sticking with what I talked about earlier, this bike is definitely not the fastest in its class, but it's not meant to be, so I think that's all right. I think the sweet spot for this bike is somewhere around 45 miles an hour to 55 miles an hour. I think that's where this bike will be happiest, but if you need it to do 70, it can do it. I just wouldn't ask it to do it for a super long amount of time. You know, if you needed to make like a 40-mile trip, I wouldn't worry about it. Haven't really had an instance to test the brakes out, but we'll try that up here before this roundabout. Oh man, those brakes feel amazing. Those brakes actually feel super good. I can't believe how nice those feel. If you get this English twin in the sweet spot, I think here around 5,000 RPM and you just kind of open it, it's got plenty of pep. Like it's got a pretty good jump on it. It does okay. For being an air-cooled 650, this bike is about what you really expect. It delivers on value, and it's simple. The fact that it's simple is awesome for any rider. And also, side note, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but the center stand is really convenient for parking lot maintenance. If you need to tighten up your chain, notice it's loose, throw it up on that center stand. You don't even need a paddock stand. Pretty convenient feature there that is not oftentimes equipped on a lot of other motorcycles. All right, let's punch it. I mean, it gets up and goes pretty good, come on. And the videos that I see of guys that put exhaust on these sound pretty darn good. In closing, if you're thinking about picking one of these up, I really don't think you have to think about it too much. Go ride it, see how it fits you. Overall, I'm really happy with it, and I would recommend this bike to anyone who's looking to either start on one or even pick up a second one. That's going to wrap it up for today's video, guys. Thank you for watching. Have a great week, and ride safe.